Hey everybody, today I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison video with two different half-inch pneumatic impact wrenches. We have the Snap-on MG725, and we'll compare that to the Earthquake XT, which is sold at Harbor Freight. And previously I did do a full video review on the Earthquake XT series, including this half-inch impact wrench and the larger 3/4 inch version. But since that video, a lot of viewers have requested that I do a follow-up video with the MG725 because in Harbor Freight's advertising, they're comparing these two specifically. They're saying that the power levels are basically the same. So I went ahead and picked up a Snap-on brand new. We're going to take a look at them side by side. Not only are we going to look at the different features that they each have, but we're also going to do extensive torque testing. I'll measure dynamic torque as well as working torque, and we'll see in both forward and reverse which one of these is going to be more powerful. Here's a closer look at both impact wrenches side by side, and I want to go over the different dimensions and weight. Now the Earthquake is going to come in at a lower weight, and with a fitting installed, it will weigh 4 pounds and 7 ounces. The MG725 does weigh over half a pound more, coming in at 5 pounds 1 ounce. And the dimensions are going to be very similar. They're the exact same 9.5 inches tall from the top of the impact to the bottom of the fitting. They're going to be 2 3/4 inches wide, and then the Earthquake is going to be a ½ inch shorter. It's 7 1/4 inches long, and the MG725 is 7 3/4 inches long. The Earthquake has 3 different speed or power modes, and on the rear of the unit you can notice a large dial with an arrow pointing at one of 3 dots. All the way to the right is going to be the max torque, the middle will be the mid torque, and then all the way to the left will be the low torque setting. This plunger on the bottom, when you press that forward, it will put the tool in forward, and when you press that back, it's going to put the tool in reverse. Now remember, with this particular unit, it does have 3 distinct power modes in both forward and reverse. So it's not going to be 3 power modes in forward and then max torque in reverse like some other brands. The other thing to note, it does have a variable speed trigger. So the harder you press in on this, it will increase the power levels to the maximum setting. And if you want to just barely run something on, you would just barely press in on it. And then to give it max power, you of course would press it in all the way. The Snap-on will be very similar with that variable speed trigger, operating exactly the same way, but to change between the different speed or power modes on this, they do not have a big dial in the rear of the housing. The plunger is going to operate the same way, and when you press that forward, it will put the tool in forward. When you press that back, it's going to put the tool in reverse. But to change between the different speed or power modes, you need to twist that. On the rear, you can see little ribs all the way around, which would give you some grip, and you can move that left to right. However, I find, especially if your hands are greasy, something like this will cause them to slip. If you press that forward, you can then change it, and you'll notice that this is not round, and it's a lot easier to hold on to, even if you had gloves on. Now, one thing to note with the Snap-on, it has 3 distinct speed or power modes in forward, but in reverse, no matter which setting you're in, it is going to apply max power. Taking a look at the construction of each unit, they will be completely different, and the Earthquake XT had that big weight savings due to its composite housing. The nose cone on the front is going to be made out of metal. However, the rest of the unit is going to be made out of a composite material, and it does not have any rubber overmold. Now that could be a good or a bad thing depending on the shop chemicals you're around, because a lot of times with a rubbery surface, it can swell up if, let's say, you get it around brake cleaner. But a hard surface like this, you can normally wipe it right off of and it's not going to damage anything. If we take a look at the Snap-on, it will have an all-metal housing, but this has a couple additional features. Even though the metal does extend all the way to the base, it is going to have a rubber overmold grip and a pad on the top. And because this will get extremely cold as you use it due to the compressed air flowing through it, if it was an all-metal housing without a rubber grip, it would probably freeze your hand. This is going to insulate that, and it would make it more comfortable to use. The other thing to note would be the rubber pad on the top does have a flat surface built in, which will allow you to set it down on the ground, a customer's vehicle, or even a workbench, and it's not going to fall over on you. And the painted surface is not touching anything, only that rubber pad is. Now, one advantage that the Snap-on does have over the Earthquake XT currently would be the fact that you can get a protective boot for it. This is going to save your painted surface and prevent scratches or damage, and it's going to slip right on the tool. And the Earthquake XT currently does not have one of these available. So if you really want to protect your tool, you should pick up a protective boot, and it'll keep it nice a lot longer. Both impacts will have the exact same 3/8 inch air fitting with 1/4 inch NPT threads. If we take a look at a standard 1/4 inch fitting, you'll see just how small the hole is in the center of this compared to those 3/8 inch fittings. And by using the larger ones, it means that we can turn our line pressure down lower than with something like this. In order to achieve 90 psi of working pressure at the tool when the trigger is held wide open, if we used a small fitting, we would have to turn the regulator up higher at the tank. By using the larger fittings, we can keep that regulator at a lower pressure because it will allow for greater flow, keeping us at the exact same 90 psi. And finally, both impact wrenches have the exact same friction ring or hog ring anvil. That means we can take a standard impact socket, line it up and press it in place. It's going to lock right in and it's not going to fall off on us. Because that ring is keeping tension on the socket, it's going to prevent it from flying across the room when you're using the impact wrench. And then once you're done with it, you would just grab onto it and pull it right off. There's no pin to press in like a pin detent version, and this is going to be ideal for automotive uses. For our initial torque test, we're going to measure what the maximum reverse working torque is after a 15-second run time. Now to do that, I'll be using a Skidmore Wilhelm Model R with a 1 1/4 inch bolt and a 2 inch nut. With this combination, we can accurately measure bolt tension in pounds up to 110,000. We'll take whatever the reading is, divide it by 70, and that's going to give us our torque rating. Now to do this, I will be doing 3 different runs with each impact, alternating impacts between each run. And also between the runs, I will change out the lubrication on the back of the nut, on the washer face as well as the threads, with a fresh coating of R-0050 test bolt lube from Skidmore Wilhelm. And to make sure we have extremely accurate results, I will be using a brand new Sunex Model 264 impact socket. This is a 1/2 inch drive and we don't have to use any adapters, which would result in torque loss. I want to thank Sunex for sending this over for our testing and allowing us to get those exact torque numbers. Now also remember, I will be using a 1/2 inch air line, 3/8 inch air fittings, and I already have everything set up for 90 psi of working pressure when the trigger is being pulled. And now for a forward working torque test, we're going to do exactly the same thing using a beam mount Skidmore Wilhelm. This is a Model M with a 1 1/4 inch bolt and a 2 inch nut. And this does not have left-hand threads like the bench mount model. This has right-hand threads. So as far as the setup goes, it's going to be exactly the same. We're going to have the same 15-second run time, and we're going to alternate impacts between each run. Okay, we just got done with all our working torque testing and the numbers were very consistent with each impact through each run. Starting out with the Snap-on and forward, it had an average of 60,167 pounds of bolt tension. Divide that by a factor of 70 because of the nut and bolt combination we're using. And in forward, the maximum working torque after a 15-second run time is 860 foot-pounds. When we take a look at the Earthquake, it had an average of 60,833 pounds of bolt tension. Divide that by a factor of 70, and its maximum forward working torque is coming in at 869 foot-pounds. In reverse, the numbers were increased, with the Snap-on having an average of 70,167 pounds of bolt tension. Divide that by a factor of 70, and its maximum reverse working torque is coming in at 1,002 foot-pounds, compared to the Earthquake with an average of 70,000 pounds of bolt tension. Divide that by a factor of 70, and its maximum reverse working torque is 1,000 foot-pounds. Now to test the dynamic torque, or how hard each impact can hit at its peak torque with each impact of the anvil, we're going to use a Skidmore-Wilhelm Model T3000 digital torque meter. This can accurately measure torque in forward and reverse up to 1,000 foot-pounds, and I have it set up with a 1/2-inch impact wrench. Now what we'll test is forward and reverse in all three modes with each impact, and we'll see firsthand what the power levels actually are. Taking a look at the results of our dynamic torque testing, the Snap-on MG725 had 3 distinct power modes in forward and 1 distinct power mode in reverse. That means no matter which setting you're on, when you put it in reverse, it will give you max power. And in reverse, it had a maximum range of 465 foot-pounds. Compare that to the XT's maximum of 465 foot-pounds. And in reverse, they do come in exactly the same as far as a maximum setting. One thing to note about the XT, it does have 3 distinct power modes in reverse. So if you don't want to snap the head off a bolt, you can dial the power down and it would have a minimum of 301 foot-pounds and then the mid setting of 346 foot-pounds. Now in forward, the range was going to be slightly more, with the XT having a minimum in first gear of 275 foot-pounds, the mid torque coming in at 325 foot-pounds, and the max torque in forward coming in at 450 foot-pounds. The Snap-on did not get that high of a rating, and its maximum forward torque is coming in at 421 foot-pounds, the mid torque at 399, and then the forward first gear coming in with a low end range of 332 foot-pounds. So now you've seen a side-by-side comparison of the Earthquake XT versus the Snap-on MG725. And what was really surprising to me were the torque levels, specifically just how close they were to each other. And with our maximum reverse or forward working torque tests, I think we could run those 10 more times, and half the time the Snap-on would win and half the time the Earthquake would win. In fact, the only time we saw a noticeable difference in the torque levels was with the digital torque meter. And in the maximum reverse setting, they had the identical 465 foot-pounds, but in forward, the Earthquake actually beats the Snap-on by almost 30 foot-pounds. So let's say you're using something like this hub puller. Because it can apply additional torque per impact of the anvil, the Earthquake XT could remove a hub easier than the Snap-on because it is applying more power. But there's more to an impact wrench than solely torque levels. And like I showed you in those clips, they do have different features that might stand out to you. And really they each have one main positive and negative feature. The main negative feature of the Earthquake is going to be its warranty, coming in at only 90 days straight out of the box. But you can expand that to 1 or 2 years if you purchase an additional plan when you buy it. The Snap-on right out of the box includes a 2-year warranty, and you would be covered during that entire time frame. But as far as the price levels, that's going to be the Earthquake's main advantage. On the shelf, it's sitting at 149 bucks, and then you can find a coupon and knock that down to 129. When we look at the Snap-on, if you go to their website, it's going to run you $505, which is a huge jump over what this is going to cost you. So just keep that in mind if you're looking at either one of these. One will have a better warranty out of the box, but one is going to be a lot cheaper. Now, I'd like you to leave a comment below this video as to which one of these you like better. And if you own one, tell me about your experience with it. Have you had problems, or has it done a really good job for you? If you like this video, please click like. If you like my channel, please click subscribe. And thanks for watching.